In this video, we continue looking at publishing Azure Virtual Machine Offer in Partner Center. So in the previous videos, we focused on creating the VHD image that's required for publishing a virtual machine offer. And in this video, we're going to look at the Partner Center UI, how to create the virtual machine offer there, and how to use the images that we generated to submit inside of that offer. So just to recap, what is an offer consisting of and what we are going to be publishing. So in the Azure Marketplace, we are going to have a publisher. Let's say test publisher is our publisher. You'll have your own publisher. And then we can have multiple offers for a given publisher. Let's say we have offer 1 and offer 3. We're going to publish the test VM 02 offer. That offer will have an ID, so you can see the offer ID right over here. And kind of that will be the offer that we will create. And it will have multiple plans. We'll create 3 plans for the 3 images we created. One for a Ubuntu-based version of our software, bring your own license, for example, a CentOS 2 version of our software, bring your own license, and maybe a Windows one. And then for each of the plans, we will use a VHD that we created. And that VHD will be an Azure storage account that we will point to, and we will see that in a second. So we'll take those VHDs, we'll use the SAS URLs of those VHDs, and we basically will create an offer like that in our partner center. So we will, and then once we do that, if we publish it live, we would be able to see AZ VM image list for our publisher and see the offers listed, but we will be publishing it only into preview phase. So it will not be appearing inside of this list, but we'll show how to do testing separately. So if you watch the previous video, which I recommend to watch, is we talked about how to create the Azure VM image using Packer with VHD destination, and a separate video on how to do it with Packer using shared image gallery destination. But at the end of the day, in both cases, we got a VHD in storage. So we created one VHD during the video for the Ubuntu image, but separately I ran and generated a Windows and a CentOS image. So they're all landed inside of my storage account, AV VHD storage 100, inside of a container called system. It creates a few subfolders, and we can see right here are our VHD images. So this is our CentOS image, VHD. This is our VHD for Ubuntu, and this is our VHD for Windows. And you can see they're different sizes. Obviously, let's say the Windows root disk is bigger, and these are the root disks for the CentOS and Ubuntu. Those are generalized VM images that we created in a previous recording. So how we're going to be using those in this session to be able to submit them to the marketplace. We're going to look at how to do that right now. So just revisiting back really quickly, the documentation in Azure Marketplace about virtual machine and different offer types and the publishing guide by offer type. We have the virtual machine documentation, and here it's talking about in details of how to create and publish the VM offer. We will not be reading the docs, but you can refer to the docs to see it for yourself. We'll actually go into Partner Center and start doing that. So I'll create, you need to be able to have a login to Partner Center to follow this, and that is a prerequisite for publishing any types of offer in Azure Marketplace. Documentation describes how to get your access to Partner Center. But once you have a Partner Center offer, let's start creating our VM offer. So we'll click on New Offer and say Azure Virtual Machine. We'll give it an ID, so I will prefix it called test RSMV VM02, kind of so that I can find this VM offer easily. We'll give it an alias of the same name, so I can easily tell what it is. You can change the alias, you cannot change the offer ID after it is created. So we'll say create. So once that creation finished, it took us to this page. It shows which offer ID we used, and now we're going to start filling out the information. And I'm going to go step by step, and we are going to see how that all looks. So this is the alias. We're not going to set up a test drive. We don't need a test drive. It's a special type of way to let people deploy VM. We want to right away go and create the VM offer. Customer leads This is connection to the lead system. I'm not going to set it up for real, but you can see I can set up an Azure table lead collection. So if people deploy, it will actually add those leads to an Azure table. Here I can put the Azure storage accounts connection string, and it can put it there for us. So to make it more interesting, let's actually do that. I'll click on a storage account that I will later delete anyways. I will grab the connection string for that storage account. And let's actually configure it so you can get a sense of what that looks like. That will be the email to which it will send the data. Okay, so now we are going to say that every time somebody deploys this VM, put a lead in there, but you could do it to an Azure table or other destinations. Save draft. After the draft is saved, we're going to go to the properties and start configuring the other parts of this virtual machine. We're going to add categories, and we can select a few categories. So I select these two categories. I'm going to say use standard contract. Obviously, for your case, you would either use a standard contract or you would have your specific contract defined by your uh, product management and legal teams. So I'm just, for simplicity here, not focusing on those marketing and legal components as much as on the technical. So we say offer listing. So this is going to say, okay, provide the title and the description of this offer. So just to make it interesting, I'm going to fill it up with something simple. We're going to include a privacy link. We're going to add a few other interesting links that you can link to your docs. You can link to other information on your site, and we will need to fill in the support information. So we filled in the support information. It's asking for a logo, and we'll upload a logo of this size, 216 by 216. So I have a, just a square, and it will do is it will actually resize it to create additional ones. Okay, and then it wants a screenshot, so we'll upload a screenshot. You need to have these artifacts pre-created by your marketing team to be able to proceed. And once screenshot is uploaded, we'll add a caption. Okay, and we'll save draft. If your marketing team wants, you can add video references here. Basically, for a video reference, you would link to YouTube video or other things like that. So I'll just remove the video to make it less information. So save the draft. Next step, we will need to define the preview audience, which Azure subscriptions will be able to view this offer. So what we will do is here we will need to put an Azure subscription that will be able to see this offer before it's published live. So I'm going to make it available to my own subscription. So I'm going to grab the subscription ID and I'm going to say this is my internal subscription, and you can add additional subscriptions. So I'm going to add another one as well. So for the other one, I'm going to, let's say, take one of my MSDN subscriptions like this one and just put it here. Okay. Um, and save draft. So again, what will happen, these subscriptions will be able to view and deploy this virtual machine before it's published live, what's called preview state. But we will publish our virtual machine as a private offer anyways to avoid it by mistake going public because it's nothing real. We will make it into a private plan as well. So next we will go to plan overview page. And this is where we will actually be creating the plans to define our offer. So we'll create a new plan and we'll give it a name. And if you remember, let's look at our storage account. We have the CentOS, Ubuntu, and Windows. So let's make up our plan IDs, which are not changeable. So I'm just going to make one plan called Ubuntu BYOL, and a plan name would be Ubuntu 1804 LTS, bring your own license, just as an example. And this plan will only be available in Azure Global. If we check this box, it will also replicate this into the Azure Government Clouds, but will not do that at the moment. And now you can see we are in the context of that plan. If we go back to the plan overview, we can see the plans we have, and we can see this plan is right now marked as public. We will be changing that to avoid a chance that we are publishing something that will, once it goes live, will get released to others, because this is just a test virtual machine. So we'll click on the plan, okay? And what we will see is a way to define plan summary and plan description. So I'll just put here some placeholders, okay, and save draft. This information will appear for the specific plan information, as we saw in the previous videos of other plans. This will be in the offer with multiple plans. Each one will have its own little short title and description. You can see how long those could be. We'll go into pricing and availability, and we'll configure which regions, which markets can deploy this. So if you click on Edit Markets, it shows us all 141 markets except of China, I think by default are selected. We'll leave it like that. And what that means is that people whose billing country is inside of one of these markets will be able to deploy this once we push it live. If they're not in that billing market, it will give them an error, and it will not to deploying this. Okay. So next, what we will do is we will pick a usage-based bill plan or bring your own license. We will, for this test, bring your own license, because for me to be able to test this virtual machine inside of my internal subscriptions or my SDN subscriptions, I want it to be $0 VM, and usage-based billing would require credit card on file and could bill by core, by hour, by price. These are very actually important components. So I want to show you once you're creating a real offer that is billable, what you will want to do is when you configure the plan, create a plan in the documentation, pricing and availability, you will be able to set up your pricing correctly. So let me just quickly show without doing it. So if I'm setting usage-based pricing, I can put a price per core of, let's say, 10 cents. Okay, and then it will take the number of cores in the VMs multiplied in 10 cents USD by default, and will charge the customer on top of the Azure infrastructure price, this price whenever the VM is in running state, not the allocated state. If I check per core size, you can see how it took my price and it kind of multiplied it. But with per core size, what I can do is I can actually say, you know, it doesn't matter, 1 core, 2 core, 4 core, 6 core, all of this will be 10 cents, right? That's the difference between the core and per core size. And per core size market is a way to set a price for each individual market separately, and it remembers it, and that's the price. It doesn't change it based on uh, uh, conversion rates at different points in time. So let's say if I pick Uganda and I set prices, it will be different. And if I set prices per core size, actually what it's going to do for us automatically, let's just click this export pricing data so that you have a reference. What it stores at the end of the day will look like this, right? It will basically, for every country, right, it says if it's enabled or not based on those regions. And then you can see all the different core sizes, and you can set the prices right in there. And those prices will then be charged. If I save it with a default price, then all of the other markets will be calculated at the current time based on the conversion, okay? And they will appear in this spreadsheet. That's, you can export it later to see once the prices are saved if you're using paid. I'm not going to be using paid. I'm going to use bring your own license. So there's no pricing information at all. It's all taken care of by the software that you build. Now, plan visibility. This is important. We're going to talk about it. If I want to publish a plan that's visible to everybody, then they will all be able to find it in the Azure Marketplace portal. And this is mostly what you will publish. But sometimes you want to publish something that you want to whitelist specific subscriptions to see and deploy. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say this private plan will be only visible to some Azure subscriptions. And I'm going to, again, whitelist it for the subscriptions that we already looked at. Same thing as for the preview audience. So I'm going to whitelist it for my internal subscription. This way, if I push it live, it will not cause a problem. And I will be also whitelisting it for my other subscription. So this is for once it's live. Only these subscriptions will be able to use it. I can add many more later, okay? And it will require republishing, and it will take a few hours for it to refresh, but then those people will also be able to use it. And if they're not, they will get an error, right? So that's a way to publish private plans, okay? You cannot change this option after submitting a draft and pushing it one time. You cannot change the pricing option either. So these are unchangeable decisions for this plan, but you can change them for another plan. And the final box is hiding a plan. And what this means is this, if I don't want people to be able to find this virtual machine as individual product in the marketplace and deploy it, I can check this box, and then this virtual machine will appear programmatically inside of the repository of images in Azure. But it will not be available for customers in the UI to find it and deploy it. Why would I do that? Is useful when I'm including this virtual machine as a component of a solution template or a managed application, where I'm referring to it in a template by its publisher, offer, and SKU, but I'm not directly selling it as an individual machine, right? So I'm not going to mark it, and I'm going to save draft. And the option for hide plan can be changed later as well, okay? Next thing we're going to, the most important part is the technical configuration. Which virtual machine image am I doing? So we're going to start with Linux for this plan because we're looking at Ubuntu. We're going to select which vendor of Linux it is, and we're going to write a friendly name. Okay. And we're going to select the recommended virtual machine sizes. Which sizes do we recommend people to use? So let's just pick this size as a recommended size, and maybe this size, that size, and TV3. Let's just pick, let's say, this size, save, right? So we can select 5 recommended sizes. It will by default, when people deploy this offer, will open up these ports for Windows, and for us on Linux, only port 22 will be open, and customer can close it afterwards with network security group. And we can add additional ports by labeling here and saying, let's say, I need special port 1, and let's say I'm opening up a port 10,800, and it's on the same port internally on which protocol, right? So that's what you can do. If you want customers to immediately open those by default, better to be secure, maybe ask them, does it support accelerated networking? Yes, because we are deploying it with an image that does. Which generation of VM it is? It is created from VM of generation 1, so that's the generation we're going to use. And if we save the draft, it will say, look, I mean, it's all good, but you still need to provide a disk version, and you still need to provide the SAS URI. And shared image gallery option is something we will look into in another time. So SAS URI, and this is how we provide the SAS URI, and this is how you can provide the shared image gallery. So for now, we're focusing again, this option appeared here very recently. Uh, was the only option before, and this is the one we are kind of right now looking at, but we'll look in this one in a separate video as well. SAS URI, so we're going to say SAS URI, which version of a disk. We decided to call it 001, if you remember, and it wants that format if you see integer, integer, integer. That's how we defined it as we were looking here for our offer, okay? And then we need the SAS URI. We're not going to have any data disks at all. So it's going to be OS only disk. So how do we get the SAS URI? So if I come here, I'm not going to be able to get shared access signature from here correctly because Marketplace wants it to be a container level SAS obtained this way. And if you remember, when we were recording the other video, we had in the repo, so just to show which repo, in this repo, we were discussing options for creating the shared image as shared access signature. So we're going to use this command. Okay, so let's run this command to generate the signature for our storage account and container, read-write permission starting a month ago, ending a month from now. This is shared access signature that we will use. And then we will also need the URL of our actual blob, and this is the URL of the blob. That one we can grab just by right-clicking and saying copy URL. Let's just actually replace it to make sure it's the correct one. Okay, so this is shared access signature for that blob URL. Let's bring it into the portal now. Again, that's the shared access signature approach. And let's see what, and as we saved it, this is the URL. And if we just try a little test and see, the validations on these errors will come up and give us the explanation of what is incorrect. I think this error message that's popping up right now, it's actually an invalid validation. So let's see if we can save the draft, and there may be UI a little tweak that needs to be done to this partner center, but seems to be saved. So we created our plan, number one. And if we go to the plan overview, we can see our plan here. So in this part of the video, we created one plan only. Let's add really quickly another plan for the CentOS and one more plan for Windows. We will add later using shared image gallery. So let's add the CentOS plan. So we'll call this CentOS 82 BYOL. And just very quickly, we're going to say we're not reusing because it's going to be a different image. Plan listing will follow a very similar approach. So this is going to be our summary, description, pricing and details, kind of following the same thing we did for the other plan. Edit markets, make sure those are the ones. Bring your own license, private, and we're going to grab the subscription IDs. That will be the only ones that can deploy this. And one more. So let's say this one. Okay, we're not going to say hide, I'm going to say save. So it's a private plan. Again, these things will become uneditable after we do this. Okay, technical configuration. So for here, we're going to say Linux. This is now going to be our CentOS product, CentOS based product. We're going to select VM sizes. So we're going to set up similar to what we did last time. Okay, 3 sec sizes, no special ports, supports accelerated networking, image version 001. Again, we're going to use SAS URI here. And what that SAS URI will be is the CentOS OS disk. So we are copying the disk. Same signature will apply because the same signature is relevant still because it's container level signature. I'm going to put it here. I think this validation error, let's for now ignore it because it is blob core windows.net. Okay, let's see where we are at. So now we have two plans. And if we go back to the offer, we can see the offer. We go to the last few screens here. This is where co-sell information would be added, marketing information about your product, or sell through CXPs, last section. I'm going to say any partner in the CSP program and say save draft. So now that, because it's BYOL, it should be fine. Review and publish. We'll click that button. For this offer, it will bring us to what we just did. So you can see green check marks everywhere. And we're going to say, great, this looks good. So this is plan offer setup and everything else. Those two images that we added, we're only adding Gen 1, not Gen 2 VMs. And we're going to say this VM offer is for test purposes and will be private and will be, and we're going to say publish. So this will not right away take it to the live audience. Instead, it will submit it and we will take a look at the information, what will happen. So for this offer, it will go through copying the technical artifacts, manual certification up to 3 days. Then it's going to take that image, those images and copy them, create a preview and put them inside of this publisher sign-off section where we will be able to review and publish those images once they are um, to go live after we confirm that they're testing. So we'll let this do its work by running through the paces and we'll, in a different video, we'll follow up with testing the offer and seeing it in preview.